really just evaluate everything and then come to a conclusion. When people immediately get a result and it's not the result that they like, the first thing that their mind goes to is that, oh, I failed. The first thing that their mind goes to is, I didn't do enough. The first thing that their mind goes to is that I'm a disappointment. What's good? It's your boy, Glacier, breaking down the iceberg of life. I'm making this video because I want to talk about why you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. It's my winter break. The semester ended. A lot of people were really beating themselves up over their exams. A lot of people were really, I'm sorry, there's a lot of flies, so if you see me shooting my stuff around, my bad. A lot of people were really beating themselves up over the results that they got on their final exam. A lot of people were just beating themselves up over the grades that they got. And it's like, why are you being so hard on yourself? Now, the short and sweet and simplistic answer is that we're harder on ourselves when we have higher goals in mind for what we want to obtain. We're harder on ourselves when we have bigger things that we want to achieve. And so the small stuff that we're compounding, when we feel like we're not getting the best results out of it, we feel like we're falling short of what our end goal is. A student who's happy to just pass his class would have the biggest smile on his face if he gets a C. However, the student that wants a 4.0 GPA would damn near shed a tear if they got a C on their report card. It's just about the perspective and what you place on yourself. When you aim high, you have, I guess you could say, more of a failing space, because you know how far you want to go, you feel like if you come up short, you're a failure. But that's just not the case. I've recently started doing this. I've learned to have small goals, have small milestones. Your mind grows, your mind responds better to success, better than it responds to failure. Even when you hit a small goal, you still have a slight sense of dopamine coming in because you are achieving something. If you've never been to the gym in your life and then all of a sudden you want to change for the upcoming year, and so you put, I want to have a six-pack, I want to be buff, I want my legs to be gigantic. Why that sound like I have a lisp right there? When you set such big goals for yourself, you're gonna feel more hurt when you don't achieve it. But you should have never been in that position to put yourself at such a high caliber. Now let me elaborate more on that. That's not to disrespect anybody. You have to build up to things. People always seem to rush the foundation process. People always seem to rush the building blocks. Have a good, strong base. The greatest teams in basketball were formed by having a strong base. Draft a solid, good franchise player. You get him another piece, then you build off that. The Golden State Warriors are a perfect example. They built a dynasty basically off only their drafted players. Jordan Poole, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. When you have a good base, it's even better when you start adding additional things. They got Kevin Durant, and now boom. If they didn't have a strong base, do you think Kevin Durant would have came there? If they didn't have a strong base, do you think they would have been as dominant as they were? When you have a strong base, it's hard for you to move off center. Now, to connect to my point of what I'm trying to say, your base is going to get stronger and stronger as you continue to do a repetition of the thing that you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to be a YouTuber, if you're trying to be a rapper, you're trying to be a musician, you're trying to be an athlete, as you start doing the workouts, as you start doing the vocal lessons, as you start writing more songs, you just start getting more reps in. You're going to start getting better and better and better, and that's just the base. They say it all the time. You have to start with the fundamentals, and then you expand off the fundamentals. Learn to forget. Do an action so much that you forget it. So when you're hard on yourself because you didn't achieve something that you set out to do, it just comes down to certain questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, was the goal actually obtainable in the certain time frame that you set for yourself? Number two, did you already have a good enough strong foundation to make this goal obtainable? And then number three, where you checking in with the milestone? Where you seeing the measurements of your growth? Were you able to some way, somehow see the rates in which you were progressing? The thing is that a reason I say these questions is because even when it comes to school, you don't have a way to just make sure that you're really being on top of your work. You don't have a way of just making sure that you're really standing on top of things. I can say for me, I could tell that I was really doing good in the subject when I was able to explain it to other people. They even say that you really have gained mastery over a subject when you can teach it to other people. You learn best when you teach other people. When you ask yourself those 3 questions, I want you to really be critical with yourself, because those are what I like to call accountability questions. Those are questions that are going to really give you an insight into your life. They're going to give you an insight into the time management skills that you have devoted to this task. And even if you had a schedule too, ask yourself another question. Were you being committed to that schedule? Did you make it one day, were strong for a week, and then you eventually just faded off? I've said this in previous videos and I'm gonna say it again. The results will always line up with the work that you put in. There's no way for the results to hide when you actually put in the work. When you go to the gym and you're effectively working out, there's no way that you're not going to get bigger biceps. There's no way that you're not gonna get bigger calves. It's when the muscles are not coming in, that's when you gotta start being like, okay, you gotta start taking some things into account. You gotta start questioning, was I doing this workout right? Was I getting enough calories for the day? That's when you really got to really just evaluate everything and then come to a conclusion. When people immediately get a result and it's not the result that they like, the first thing that their mind goes to is that, oh, I failed. The first thing that their mind goes to is, I didn't do enough. The first thing that their mind goes to is that I'm a disappointment. But yet again, that's just not true. You're saying such open-ended statements that could mean so much things. I'm a disappointment. You're a disappointment. Why? You disappointed who? You got disappointed when? The more you can pinpoint an actual answer to your question, the more you can actually pinpoint the flaws, the more you can actually pinpoint the weakness, that's when you can actually know where you have to improve on. People are so hard on themselves, but it's like you just gotta find where your flaws are at. People just want to give themselves a hard time and just be okay with just abusing themselves. No, don't give yourself mental abuse. Don't do that. Understand your weaknesses. That's self-realization, that's self-awareness. That shows growth, that shows maturity, to actually understand where your faults are at. And sometimes you may even have to ask another person. That is true growth, that is true maturity. Sometimes it's good to have a friend that checks you like you're not doing enough. Sometimes it's good to have that friend that's like, you're BSing. And I know this is even speaking off of personal experience. It was hard for me to have a friend like that for a long time, that would always call me out because I was just such an impulsive person that I would always be so quick to just snap back at them. But that just wasn't good. You have to learn to really listen. You have 2 ears but 1 mouth. For what reason? Listen. So to wrap it up, before you catch yourself getting ready to beat yourself up for not achieving your goal, try to pinpoint the reason and why you came up short. Like I said, sometimes we get caught up in fantasy land that we like to take away logic. Find the actual reasoning. Find the flaw, find the weakness, then strengthen it. It's quite literally like a basketball team. Find the pieces that you need. Find the role players that complement the star player. You know what works for you. So just find more things that can just complement it. So that way you just have a system that just makes you flourish. Don't beat yourself up anymore. Because if you are really doing your best too, okay, that's good. I'm starting to learn this too, but there's no such thing as winners and losers in this world. For the longest I thought that, but there's only lessons, and there's only people with enough courage to keep trying after rejection, after rejection, after rejection, after rejection. There's only people that have done an action so much after being rejected so much to the point where they were accepted. You have to lose until you can win, if that's the case. Find the reason. Dig deep inside yourself, or just write everything out. Find the reason and then strengthen it. I guarantee once you do that and you give it your all, you give it your best, I promise you're gonna hit your goal. You try your best, you find your flaws and you work on it, I promise you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be great. At the end of the day, I ain't no preacher. I'm just a guy talking.